How's it going? Anybody and everybody who might be watching this is Alex Zombie with another weekday upload. Today, what I finally have for you guys is a fully fleshed out mobhead farm tutorial. Previously on my channel, I did give you guys a proof of concept video where I went into detail on how it's possible to create a mobhead farm where all you have to do is press a button, sit at an AFK spot, and farm some mob heads. Before I do go ahead and get into this, however, I want to give a quick shout out to Silent Whisper as well as Mike Homer. They are the madmen behind the spawning platforms that I borrowed and then adapted to make the general mob farm part of this tutorial. Well, basically what happens is mobs spawn in on these ice blocks, and since they are technically still transparent blocks, they want to pathfind onto solid blocks, and then we take advantage of coral fans that they mistake for solid blocks they can walk onto to then funnel them to wherever we want them to be. Now, all I did was adapt this by basically removing the buttons on the ceiling, ensuring that we can now spawn in the zombies and skeletons, which will now allow us to decapitate them both. And similar to the creeper farm design, we keep the trapdoors just to keep spiders from spawning since they don't give us any heads. Now, before I get into the showcase, this farm is despawning the mobs until a thunderstorm or a rainstorm starts, and then we start off all the circuits which allow us to decapitate them. Now, there will be a tutorial coming out sometime in the future where we can loot the mobs, so this will be both a general mob farm as well as a mob head farm, but for now I'm just despawning them. Again, the way this thing works, all you have to do is press one button once it's ready to go, and you sit at your AFK spots. All of the mobs will despawn, keeping the mob cap low for any other players on the server that might be playing with you, so helping with the lag. Now, as soon as it either starts raining or a thunderstorm commences, it'll start up the mob sorting. Basically, regular mobs will, or undead mobs will swim down in water because they want to avoid sunlight, and then creepers will make their way into the lightning, in front of the lightning, so they can get struck and then turned into supercharged creepers. Now, we do use witches in order to trigger the creepers into exploding. Basically, we use a witch's bottle that we keep inside of a stasis chamber to aggro the creeper, and since the creeper will end up being close enough to the witch, it'll eventually explode and decapitate all of the mobs. Now, you guys saw there that I do have a system which allows us to get that witch in the correct position easily, and once we have a witch there, all the rest of the witches will get despawned. This is a perfect time to talk about the platforms on the side. As you guys saw there, a enderman spawned in. It wanted to teleport and move around in Pathfind just the same as every other mob because it is technically on a block that isn't completely solid. So the only blocks that we allow it to teleport onto are these on the side. And once they do teleport over here, they'll try to walk around and fall off the coral fans there, despawning and keeping the mob cap low. You guys can tell that we have it littered in leaves for that very reason. We don't want the enderman hanging around anywhere else, so that's what we do that for. Again, the creepers hang out, they get supercharged, they get pushed in front of the witch. After a short amount of time, the creepers will get hit via a potion. Every other lightning strike, it throws a bottle, and this ensures that we get the maximum amount of heads and zombies and creepers as well. If you're wondering about the rates for the heads here, let me just go ahead and turn this off so it's not noisy. The creeper heads are at the lowest, standing at around 24 per storm and or rainstorm, whatever. The skeletons are at around half a stack. And then finally, the zombies you get the most of at a stack and plus per storm. If you're wondering, the rates that I'm looking at are down here at the bottom right corner. That was after a 15-minute test. These on the top are extra ones that we gathered right now from the storm. Now, if you're wondering about improving those rates, I think in theory you might be able to, make a better general mob farm and then funnel them into there, and from there you can increase the rates. For example, over here I doubled the spawning platforms. However, we kind of cap off. I didn't really get more heads. This is after another 15-minute test. And we did increase on the zombie heads, I guess, but aside from that, it wasn't. I don't really think at all it's worth it to build something like this or go above and beyond. So if you want to look to improve the rates, I think the best option would be to find a different general mob farm that you can then adapt into a mob head farm using all of the concepts from here. Again, if you are interested in going more in depth with all of the concepts, there is a video over on my channel that I uploaded about about a month ago. So if you want to go check out the proof of concepts and everything and all the how what's going on behind the scenes, what's really how I got to this point, you can go check out that video. The last thing I need to show you guys is this button right here, which allows us to send the creepers into the nether for piglin heads. It is the only other head that we're missing. However, unfortunately, it is going to be rather difficult to grab those just because I can't. I try to make my farm so that only one player can run them at a time, and you don't require more than one player. So that's why I'm gonna leave it there for you guys to figure out. But for what it's worth, I do have it so that the portals work off of just this one button. You can see there the button breaks them and it also lights them at the same time. Pretty nice simple little circuits there. Aside from that, I should have covered just about everything when it comes to the farm and how it works. If you're wondering about the location where you want to build this, I would build it just over an ocean, and the tutorial that I will be giving you guys today is to just build it over an ocean so that way we don't have to worry about the dimensions of the farm or anything like that. And also, if you're going to be building it underground, it's going to be very difficult to spawn proof everything in order to help keep the rates as high as possible. So in hindsight, the best idea to build this would be just in the sky, a box in the sky. Oh yeah, one thing I did forget to mention is that I do have it boxed up in tinted glass. You can use solid blocks instead of tinted glass. However, you can't go for the typical roof design, which casts a shadow above the entire farm, simply because of the fact that we want a lining to be able to strike this lining around here. I think in theory you should be able to do something like this, where you have walls going all the way up and down or whatever, and then lighting should still be able to strike that lightning rod. Well, I missed that time. But in theory, again, it should still be able to strike that lightning rod. So maybe potentially you could add a roof if you want to cut back on the materials that you require for this. You can, you know, do that. Build a roof out of solid blocks, layer it with leaves on top, and then add a funnel going all the way down to make sure that your spawning platforms are as dark as possible. And the other thing that I will be supplying for you guys is an armor stand pack, which gives you a reference for all of the blocks where you want to place them, where things should go. So it doesn't show everything. So immediately the repeaters are missing, the comparators are missing, the leaves are missing, the observers, the freaking the trap doors, the freaking fence gates. There's a lot of things that don't show up with this pack. So, and I tried to replace some of the blocks so that you could have like references, but I gave up because the arrows didn't show up, so you couldn't tell which way what went where and who knows what. So I decided it's just gonna be a nice little reference pack in case you want to, build this and have a little bit of aid just so you can have an idea of how it's gonna look. In terms of materials, before we can get into the tutorial, these are the materials that you're going to want for the redstone. And then these are the materials per spawning platform. This is for a creeper only floor. I did have the 6 layer one. These are 12. No, these are 9. But on the one I showcased is a 6 layer, and then the sixth the tallest, the layer on the very top is a creeper fucking layer. So that's 5 general mob layers, and then the one at the very top is creeper only, just because I wanted to try and balance out the creeper heads that we got from the farm. You could probably, deviate that and mess around with that. You could go for 2 creeper only floors and then 4 general floors. You can go half and half, or maybe if you want only creeper heads, you can go for that or whatever. So really it's up to you. But for what I did, and if you want the rates that I got, these are the materials for 1 floor of creeper heads, and then these over here are the materials for 1 floor of the general mob farm floors, which spawn in all the other mobs. And in terms of the amount of tinted glass that you need, I would just go for a double chest worth. Now, you don't have to build everything out of tinted glass the same way I did. I just decided to go that route because I like the way it looks, if I'm being completely honest. But for the most part, you can replace a lot of the tinted glass with either solid blocks or regular glass. I would be a little bit careful because I'm pretty certain that there will be certain areas where you need glass specifically in order to allow the circuit to flow through and make its way up to different areas. You can replace a lot of the tinted glass with solid blocks, and you could potentially even add in a roof, but I decided to just box the whole thing in because I really liked the idea of having the farm be visible, like you can see inside of the farm. So that was just a preference and from my part. But I understand that tinted glass is super expensive, so if you don't want to go for that, I am just letting you guys know. However, in terms of the redstone, you will require exactly 43 blocks. Keep that in mind. When it comes to this chest here, what's going on is you need the flint and steels for your nether portals. They're going to go inside the dispensers to light them on and off, and the same for the water buckets to break those portals, as well as, you know, a part of the circuit, and I'll show you guys that whenever we get to it. You don't need nether stars, you just need 16 trash items that are going to go inside of the ether hopper clocks, and the same for the glowstone. It doesn't have to be specifically glowstone, it just have to be some type of trash item that you can use for the item filters. You don't really need the item filters in theory. Since this is a mob head only farm, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get very little gunpowder, very little bones, and very little, you know, the extra crap. So you could just go ahead and add in a bunch of chests and get away with that if you really want to. And it'll help, you know, if you want, it'll help cut back a little bit. But if you're going to these lengths, to these extremes to build a farm, you might as well just go the extra step, the little bit extra couple steps, and add in item filters for your mob heads. So that'll be all you need to know for the farm. Moving on with this tutorial, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to locate a chunk wherever you decide to build it, and then you're going to go to the northwest corner of that chunk, and this is where we're going to begin by adding in our leaf platform. You can go ahead and remove any extra blocks that you might be using to locate that chunk, and each direction you're going to go out by 5 blocks. So it's going to go out 5 this way, and then 1, 2, 3, 5 out this way. And then to this platform, we're going to add an extra 7 layers like this. And this is going to be your entire platform, which is going to house, which is where you're going to land in order to turn on and off the farm, as well as access your storage system. You can go ahead and fill this in. You want to make sure you build this out of leaves, just to make sure, again, the Enderman can't teleport onto here. Next, you're going to start by adding in the indicator lamp, which is going to let you know when there is a witch in the system. You can also go ahead and add in your barrels for your storage system. And finally, the copper bulb for the on and off switch. Just like this, and I go ahead and fill in all of this just because I like the way it looks. Now, I have built this in survival, and what I would recommend is bring a whole lot of scaffolding blocks, and not scaffolding the block itself, but just blocks that you can use to scaffold around to make sure that you can, you know, get underneath the farm, because there's going to be a lot of instances where you need to place something upside down or stuff like that, and an elytra jump or something where you have a trap door would come in handy, either to get down and place like observers facing upside down, for example, or again, if you have an elytra, you can just fly down. Kind of difficult to do in creative, but you could just fly down like this and get underneath a block like that. So From here, what we're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and grab yourself your hoppers. These are gonna go behind your barrels like this for the actual storage system. We're gonna add in some temporary blocks, or I guess you could add in the glass there actually, and then go. This is what you're gonna be looking at, and I believe I built it up by one more just because I liked the way it looks. And finally, you can go ahead and add in your leaves at the very top to keep anything from spawning there. If you want, you can go ahead and add in the item frames now in order to, do the little indicator or freaking whatever, you know what I'm saying? So you're gonna go back here and we're gonna start off with the storage system. You can build this out of ice. You can build this out of glass if you like. It's up to you. But I would just build it out of ice just to help your items travel as fast as possible and despawn them as fast as possible as well. We're gonna start off by adding in some glass blocks here like this. These are gonna be then holding our comparators. You're going to build a little zigzag pattern like so. Bring this back. Add in redstone dust along all of those. Here we're going to add in our Who's-a-Watsits. And finally we're going to go like this with some solid blocks on top of those guys. And that's going to do it for our item sorters. These are now ready to start sorting the items as we have all seen before. At the end here, you could either go for a cactus or for some fire. What I did was I grabbed up some soul sand, or this is where you would place your soul sand, which then you can place the fire on top of. Again, we want to try and get rid of the items as soon as possible just to help with any type of lag that the farm might be producing. I did maybe kind of sort of forget in the materials lists. I use cakes in order to align my items against the sorting stuff here. So right here we would place two cakes. The items would flow in front of these and then they'll make their way on top of these hoppers. I do apologize for that, but you could just as easily use chest. It doesn't have to be cakes, and normally people do use chest. So you could just place a double chest like this to make sure that your items get aligned properly, and then they make their way on top of these hoppers. What you want to do is you want to add in some buttons on top of each one of those hoppers, as well as a button here. Next, what I do, some leaves going back like this. This will also be a good time to add in leaves on top of all of this redstone. I would recommend adding in leaves as you go about it, just to make sure that you don't miss any where you might need them. So you're going to bring this back like so. Here we're going to go up 3 blocks temporarily, add a dropper facing straight down. Then we can add in more leaves to keep the items in place. Here we're going to go back by 2 as well. And this would also be a good time to start adding in some glass. We're going to have some redstone go on top of it, but for now we're just going to leave it as is. Then we're going to grab up our hoppers. From what I remember, we are going to have a hopper going like this for now. And then on this side, we're going to have a solid block. This is where I was talking about having your observers. So you're going to have an observer facing up like this, and then you're going to have an observer facing down like this as well. Next, we're going to grab up a glass block with a comparator on top of that. I believe we're going to go a block, some redstone, and finally a sticky piston facing into that observer like this. And this will be taking care of all of our items and sending them into the collection system. Of course, as you guys can see, we're missing the most crucial part, which is actually a water source to push the items along. So just like that, anytime some items get added into here, they'll get pushed down along the system here and sent into our collection. From here, we can then place our next soul sand on top of that hopper there. we're going to go out by 3 in this direction with glass blocks on top of these. This next section is going to be for the sorting of the mobs, so a lot of it is going to be reflected onto the other side like so. Once we go out by 3, we're going to go up by an extra one, and then from there what you're going to do is you're going to go behind it by an extra 2, just like this. So make sure you do that on the other side as well. From here, we're going to go to the front. We're going to go forward by 1, up by 1, and then we're going to go back by 7. 2, 7, just like that. And we could start adding in glass on every side. And this is what's going to be holding in our mobs as after we get them sorted out from each other. So you're going to go ahead and add glass in every direction just like this. And then over here you can bring these out by an extra one and close them off like this. Same here. At the end here we can add in a button. And on top of all of these is going to go some buttons. Finally, what we can do before we move on is we can add in water like this, and that'll flow any mobs that are left over after the rainstorm is over out of the machine in order to despawn them and help with the mob cap. One other thing that I did forget is we're going to want to actually add in an extra set of hoppers going up like this. I lied, not, we're going to get rid of that extra one and add a block. Sometimes there's a chance that creeper heads get aligned in the very center there, if I can avoid those hoppers, and they'll get stuck and they won't go anywhere. That was a bad example, but a lot of the times that will happen. And so what you want to do is we want to add in an extra set of hoppers there that the creeper heads can flow into in order to keep them from getting stuck. This will be a good time to begin on the circuit for our nether portals. So you're going to add a copper bulb directly underneath that hopper there. We're going to add in 2 comparators going on either end. We can then also add in a button. So you'll notice once you press that button, those will turn off. Once you press that button again, they'll turn back off. Did I say on or off? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Either way, from here, what you're going to do is you're going to lead these into some sticky pistons like this. From the sticky pistons, you're going to add in some torches. And in front of those, you're then going to add in some more sticky pistons just like that, facing up. And this will also help us out because then all we have to do is add in some glass blocks or solid blocks, whatever you're using, on top of all of these like so. We can then close these up as well, which is where our creepers are going to be funneling and moving around through. From here, we can add in some water sources. So we're going to have a water source here as well as a water source here. Now, this is a good time to mention that since we are on top of an ocean, we want to add in buttons like this to help avoid having the drown spawn in and getting stuck inside of where we have our creepers. And similarly, we can't place a button here, but in order to avoid the drown from spawning, what we're going to do is we're going to actually add in a light source somewhere over here, which I do by just adding in a torch if I can find one. Either a soul torch or torch will work. Either one will keep them from spawning in. So from here, you can build these up by 1. And then over here, we can leave these like this for now. Or actually, before we do that, we can actually get rid of this one and this one. And what's going to end up happening is once we flip this lever, the water streams will switch. So we want to add in some buttons like this in order to keep the water from flowing out. So you'll notice that'll switch our water streams, assuming we take into account the fact that they'll want to flow out the corners as well. Then now it'll switch our water streams and keep them from falling out all over the place. And again, we want to extend these out by 1 more because then creepers will also want to make their way out. And this is a good reference for where our nether portals are actually going to go, which is the next circuits that we're going to place into the farm here. I like to put the corners on my nether portals just cuz, and I did make this one block too tall, so let's go ahead and do this and then do the same on the other side like so. So what we're gonna do with these is we're now gonna end up grabbing up some dispensers. For this one on this side, what's gonna happen is you're gonna take an observer with a torch, or actually I lied, an observer with a solid block, and then a torch on top of that, another solid block, and now we're gonna place our dispenser facing inward like this. Now what's going to happen is you're going to take another observer facing inside where the nether portal is like this, a torch, solid block, and then your second dispenser facing into the portal just the same. And what's going to happen here is you're going to place the water bucket inside of this guy and then the flint and steel inside of this guy. So you'll notice now whenever I flip these guys, well, currently it's going to be the wrong way around. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn this on with the flint and steel inside of the dispenser like this. Or I guess it doesn't really matter. But now once they're in this orientation, you can then add in the water buckets and it'll now be working the right way around. So you'll notice whenever it's turned on, that'll indicate that we're sending our creepers into the nether. And whenever it's turned off, it'll be working as it normally does and it'll break it. The same over here, except that it's going to be a little bit wonkier because we're going to have redstone circuits going around this nether portal. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take our observer, a solid block here. Now we're going to take the torch this way, add another torch like this, and now on top of that torch, we're going to place our dispenser that's going to be holding the water buckets. We're going to have the same circuits from here on out, where we have the observer facing into the portal, solid block with a torch underneath it, and the second dispenser facing into the portal like so. Again, same idea. You're going to want to make sure that it is turned on here. We're going to grab up our water buckets as well as the flint and steel. And then we're going to go in here with the water bucket on the bottom and then the flint and steel on the top. We can flick this off and then now they'll be working the way that we want them to. You guys did see a pigment spawn out of the portals, but once we add in all of the blocks, I'm pretty sure that that won't end up happening. Excuse me. So what we're going to do from here is you'll notice the creepers will fall inside of here, but they won't flow all the way down. They'll end up getting stuck on top of these hoppers. So in order to make sure that they make it all the way down, we're going to add in a stair facing towards the back of the farm here. We're going to add in blocks on either end. And then we're going to add in buttons on those blocks like this. Next, we're going to add in blocks going all the way down. And we're also going to add in blocks on top of those guys like so. I'm pretty sure here you could actually either go ahead, you could actually go ahead and just add in leaves. But for the sake of it, I'm just going to be using solid blocks or glass blocks just to kind of make it a little bit easier. And then you also want to make sure that they go all the way out to the side like this. And finally, the only thing we're missing is a source of water on that stair. And you'll notice now whenever the creepers fall in here, they'll swim and then they'll make their way all the way down to this soul sand, which is where we want them to sit in order to actually run the entire thing the way we want it to. Before we move on, I want to really quickly just add in a bottom half slab right here in order to make sure that the creepers don't flow anywhere that we don't want them to, and then blocks on either end of all of these here just to keep the mobs and the baby zombies inside of these containment units, I guess, decapitation chambers, whatever you want to call them. Now, we don't want the creepers and the other mobs getting mixed with each other. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in some trapdoors like this, I believe, in order to keep them from flowing their way down, or keep the undead mobs from flowing into the creepers chamber, even though the water is flowing against them. So for the most part, that won't happen. We still want to kind of avoid that as much as possible. Next, you're going to take some trapdoors, and directly on top of this, you're going to place some fences. Now, actually, you want to make sure that the fences are facing this way, because if you have them like this, there's a chance that the creeper has momentum towards the nether portal, and whenever it closes, it'll push it towards the nether portal and it can glitch out. So you do want to make sure that the fence gate is in this orientation, and then the same thing over on this side, just like that. We want to make sure from here that we extend the ceiling like so, and then the same thing over here, and then we can bring these up by one, and then this is actually where the next floor is for the water stream. So we're gonna go 4, I believe, counting this one. So 3 like this, and then 1 2 3 4 like that should be the way that this ends up working out. Making sure that we do this to the other side. So counting this block 2 3 4, and then 1 2 3 4 like so. We're then gonna add in some blocks going up diagonally like this, 4 on each end, and again the same thing over here. On top of all of these 4 blocks, we're gonna add in trap doors, and then we're gonna go down diagonally like this, just like that. Now on these, you want to make sure that you close them in on every side, going all the way around and going up. I make these go up by 3 so the creepers can bob up and down in the water and they have a little bit of an easier time, but actually we do end up closing them up just like this. And then we're gonna do the same thing going all the way around just like that. All the way up to here. And you want to leave these with the extra space on top of them, just so that the creepers can have a little bit of an easier time flowing into where we want them. Now you're gonna place a trapdoor there with a water bucket on top of it like that. It doesn't, so normally it would be a button to keep drown from spawning, but for some reason drown spawned in, so I place a trapdoor just to keep it from ever happening. You could also place a slab if you want, but we're using a lot of trapdoors as is, so I decided to just go for a trapdoor. Same scenario over here. You're gonna add in trapdoor like this, and then you're gonna encase it going all the way around. This would be a good time to go through and start adding in leaves on top of a lot of this. And here on top of where the creepers are going to be sitting, I believe you place a upside down slab like this. So the creeper, if we were to spawn one in real quick, we'll have, or actually this torch cannot go there. We probably want to place it somewhere back here. Okay, so I lied about the torch going there. We're probably gonna want to add in like some light source like this. I apologize, I forgot about that detail. But again, if we spawned in a creeper right here, he will end up getting suspended, so that he's technically still in water, but still enough outside of it that he will cause full damage to any nearby mobs that we want to kill using his explosion. So we go with an upside down slab there, and then we can add in leaves on top of all of these blocks as well, going like this. Gonna go ahead and add in leaves here. Make sure everything has leaves on top of it. I will skip this part just for now because we're gonna end up adding a lot of circuits here in the front. But anything anywhere else, make sure that it has leaves, just to make sure that it keeps any Enderman from potentially making their way down here. Now on top of here, we are gonna add a solid block and or tinted glass ceiling, just to make sure that none of the light seeps into the spawning platforms above through the ice blocks. So you don't have to worry about adding leaves on top of here, but everywhere else that you that we have built, again, as you're building this, you kind of want to make sure you're adding leaves, just to ensure that no Endermen have a chance of teleporting around. So from here, I lied on this spot. This is actually going to be open. We're going to go ahead and do this going right the way around. And then you can bring your leaves forward like this. Open this one up. We can then add in glass all around here, just like so. I'm going to just go ahead and fill in those corners because I like the way that's going to look. So what's going to happen here, I lied again. This is going to go like this. We're going to go back. On this third block is where we're going to have a trap door. And this is going to go like this, 2 blocks tall. Let's try and keep up with the other side, making sure that we keep up and reflect both sides as we're working on this. So we're going to place a button right here. And this is going to stop the water from flowing downward, messing up the water stream below. Just like this. And then we can start building this up as well. From here, we're going to add a block here. And we're going to add in 4 more fence gates. 1 right here. Or 2 right there. And then the last 2 like this. Making sure that they close in that specific direction in order to make sure that the mobs end up getting stuck against them like this, and they have no chance of making their way down there. You guys will notice that we leave a block of space open just for baby zombies to be able to fall out, because if I'm being completely honest, we don't really care for baby zombies, and they can kind of mess up a whole lot of our farm. From here, we can begin to work on the water streams above. We can go like this, bring these out like so, as well as bring these up just like that. And what's going to happen here, you're going to add in buttons all along here, and then all along this side, or actually we're going to add in a roof here eventually, so we can start adding in some blocks like this. Just so we can get these water streams going. And then we're also going to add in a button right there as well. From here, I was right, we do want some buttons along those walls like that. Pretty tricky to work with, I know, but once you add in the water stream, what you should see happen is it'll push all of the mobs either in against those trap doors, and more specifically the creepers will then get filtered from the other mobs, since they're the only mobs short enough to fit inside this gap and then make their way down into where we want them. And that should be all of the mob sorting. Again, we just want to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to add in some buttons all along here, another button there, and finally some buttons like so. We're going to place 1 water source here, and that'll be for all of the mob sorting. We are going to have a couple extra water sources for the witches, but for what it's worth, this is where we should be sitting at for the farm so far. Just to finish off with the mobs, the undead mobs, again, once the rainstorms end, we want to get rid of them to help keep the mob cap as low as possible. So you're going to bring this down by 4 blocks like so on each end, so that we can make sure they fall down and they don't fall on top of any of our redstone. Whatever scaffolding you use to make your way out here, make sure you keep it, because the next area that we're going to be working with is actually where the witch is going to be sitting. So we're going to start off by making our way to this solid block. We're going to go out by 3 blocks, and then on top of this block is going to be our final soul sand. Just like this, we're going to add in some glass blocks on either end, and on top of those we're going to have some buttons just like that. We're going to add in a water source here. We can remove that one temporarily, add a water source, and then go just like this. We're going to make our slime block launcher thing, whatever, like this. We're going to add in a sticky piston, and then in front of that sticky piston we're going to have a slime block, and this is what's going to be shooting the potions over at our creepers in order to aggro them towards our Huzuma wants it. From here we can go up by another 2 like this. Then we're going to go over by 1. You can remove all of these blocks. We can add in a button here, 2 buttons like this actually. Then we're going to bring this up by 2 more blocks. We're going to go over here. We can add in a button. On this side we can add in another button. You want to go to the opposite end and add in the same 2 by 2 just like this. This is where our water is then going to be placed, and this is what's going to be catching the potions, killing its momentum, and landing it inside of this bubble column. For your witch, what you're going to do is you're going to make your way over here. You're going to add a block here, here, and then a block up diagonally like this. This will make sure that your witch stays in position whenever we go ahead and add it. Next, what we can do is we can actually add in some more of the redstone here. We're going to add in a block, 2 sticky pistons like this, and then a block in front of them like so. Whenever these pistons extend, they'll keep the creepers in place. Whenever they're inside of the bubble columns, you'll see that they won't be able to move around at all, and once they de-extend, they'll flush them out and throw them out, making sure that, again, keeping the mob cap is, or making sure again that the mob cap is as low as possible. From here we're going to add in a button here, and as well as a sign on that button just like this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add in water flowing that way. What this ensures is that sometimes the creeper heads can explode and carry momentum, or the creepers can explode, carry momentum, heads and stuff, and they land up here. This water will ensure that they end up getting thrown down and collected inside of the hoppers. From here, what we can do is take some redstone torches like so. Next, we can add in a fence gate. From here, we can then take some blocks. We're going to go out by 2 blocks and then another 2 blocks. Remove the first 2. We can go ahead and build in some walls out of leaves like so. And this is where our snow golem is going to be placed inside of, to keep it safe from rain and all that stuff and who knows what and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying. So you're gonna take a wall, any type of wall that you want to use. Gonna push it up against that wall like so, and that'll make sure that the snow golem is close enough to the witch to be able to shoot it, but far enough away from our creepers that it won't end up dying whenever the creepers explode. So you can spawn one in and you can't place a leaf right on top of it, so you want to go ahead and do something just like this. Now that we've gotten to this point, we basically have all of the mob stuff sorted out. One of the only things that we're missing is you can actually go ahead and start adding in the witch things, the funnels, which will push our witches into the minecart for us. There are going to be a couple blocks that we're going to end up changing out, so I wouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves. For now, let's just go ahead and do this. And I believe these two end up being solid blocks, and this is actually where we're going to have the trip wires with string attached to them. Now, actually, we should be safe to go ahead and do all of this. And then on top of these guys, we place buttons just like so. And finally, the only thing that we're missing is some water streams. So by waterlogging those buttons right there. So from here, we can then make our way down. And in front of this guy, we're going to start by adding in a comparator. This is going to lead into a solid block, go up, a torch, another solid block, and now on top of this solid block is we're going to have some regular pistons. Just like this. We're going to have 4 blocks with comparators facing out like this. We can remove those two. We're then going to have our hoppers facing into each other. Another solid block here. A piston. We're then going to add in a redstone block on top of this one, and then 2 solid blocks just like this, and this will complete our ether hopper clock. We're gonna go behind this guy real quick, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in a decay clock. This will just kind of ensure that the that you can't spam the button on and off and potentially break some stuff in the farm. And then from there, what you can do is you can take a signal off of here. From here is gonna go up like this. We can remove those leaves like that. We're gonna go out 2 blocks. We're gonna add another redstone here. Then we're gonna add a repeater to make sure the signal makes it all the way through. From this repeater, we're going to go out an extra block. Then we're going to go up 1, 2 diagonally like this. You're going to turn the corner and you're going to go up diagonally again 3 times. So that's going to be once, twice, thrice. And then you're going to bring the redstone signal going all the way up. Before we move on with that, we can come back down. It is not that one. It's actually this one right here with a solid block in front of it. And now here we can add in our sticky piston with the lightning rod on top of it. And if we were to, so that'll do that. From here, what we can do is we can remove these right here for solid blocks. So right here, you're going to add in redstone going in like this. And then we're going to have one here. I believe this goes up and then back like this. And then we're going to end up hooking this up to that circuit here in a second. But before we go ahead and do all of that, we can go ahead and get started on the circuit, which is going to be running our lightning strikes. Repeater on 4 ticks, just like this. We're going to go down. Then we're going to add in dust here. To the side of it, we're going to have a block like this. 4 blocks, 5 blocks like this with a copper bulb in the corner. We're going to have 4 comparators for our first decay clock. 2 dust like that. Then we're going to add in a repeater on 4 ticks here. We're going to go down, and then we're also going to add in a repeater on 4 ticks here. We're going to go up like this, a solid block. Over here on the side, we're then going to add in some blocks like so. In front of this repeater, we're actually going to have a solid block. We can get rid of this one. Dust here, here, and here. We're going to have comparators all along like so. From here, this is going to lead into a repeater with a block in front of it. We can go down over here, and I believe we can start by adding in some redstone dust just like that. We're going to lead some redstone dust all the way back from that piston over to this circuit right here. So what's actually going to happen is we're going to go up here diagonally just like that. And over here, we're also going to replace this block here with a solid block like so. Down this way, what's going to happen is I lied. This isn't going to be a repeater. It's going to be a comparator. So it can read off of that bulb, obviously. And then we're going to take it down by 7 blocks, counting this first one. And on the 7th block, it's going to go in towards that fire. Just like this. And we actually want to bring this out by 1 more. I apologize. Just like that. From here, what's going to happen is this one's actually going to be a repeater. And we can go up by 1. And from here, it should line up with what's going to be the sticky piston powering this sticky piston up here. So this is going to lead into a block. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and actually add in the sticky piston with the observer on top of it. So now we can determine where the block needs to go. And just like that, if we were to power this bulb really quickly, you guys will notice that this guy will extend, and that will send a pulse to this one right here. Perfect. So we can go ahead and turn that right back off. On this block is going to go a lever. Just like this. And this is what's going to be the manual override for our farm. Before we get to that though, or after that, we can then take some blocks here. Bring this back. This second block is actually going to be a repeater. From here, we're going to go up diagonally like this. And I do apologize, but again, as you're going along, you want to add in leaves on top of all of this. You don't want to miss any one block that an Enderman can teleport onto. Otherwise, you're going to end up with shittier rates and you're not going to be very happy. So take a quick break from the redstone, and it gives me time to go check the design as well, so that we can add in leaves on top of all of this permanent circuitry, just like this. Everywhere except on top of the lightning rod, you want some leaves to be placed, just like that. And from here, what we can also do here and here, just like that, a dust. And from there, we're going to add in blocks in front of these guys. That'll end up powering that dust and opening our trapdoors. And finally, what we can do is we can lead this circuit and connect it up to the trap door just like that. So you'll notice now both trap doors open, and whenever there's a lightning storm, that'll take care of everything, and we can finally go ahead and close all of this up, making sure that no Enderman can teleport anywhere we don't want them. Going back over here, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go up one and then a second one, just like this. On that second one, there's gonna be a repeater leading into a solid block, and then it's going to be the same on the other side. So we're actually going to end up getting rid of this leaf block, make our way over here, 4 redstone dust into a repeater, and finally that's going into a solid block just like that. We can then go ahead and start adding in some more of the circuits here. Next, you're going to take 2 blocks like this. You're going to add in redstone all along there. We're going to go up by 1. And then here what's going to happen is we're going to replace this block with a target block. We're going to get rid of that block. And then we're going to replace the block on top of this fence gate with a target block as well. We're going to grab a redstone torch here, redstone dust here, and finally a repeater leading into that dust like so. And finally we can lead the redstone going up like that. And you're going to want to do the same thing to this side. So again, we can get rid of this block, add a target block on top of that one, target block over here, redstone torch, dust, block, and finally what we're missing is some blocks here and here with some dust all along the top of those. From here, you're going to want to go over by 3 blocks like this, redstone dust all along those. You're going to go up by 1 block diagonally and forward 1, dust on top of all of those again. Here you're going to add in a sticky piston with torches on either sides of those. On top of this one, you're going to place a block with a regular piston. And then over here, you're going to add in a sticky piston facing forward like this. That's going to push these blocks out, but it's not a problem. You can just get rid of that one. Next, what's going to happen here, what you're going to do is you're going to start off by adding in a torch like this. You can remove this one with a solid block on top of here, and on top of here you're going to add in a regular piston like so. What this is going to do is this is going to act as the switch for our This is going to be what's switching the mobs from just falling straight down to actually getting funneled and then sorted from each other. The only thing we're missing is adding a block right here as well as a block here and here. I would actually recommend making these back here leaves as soon as possible, adding leaves as soon as possible so that you can get away with having to avoid Enderman teleporting all over the place. But again, like I was saying, this is actually what's going to be changing this funnel for the mobs from just having them fall straight down to actually getting sorted inside of the machine. So you'll notice whenever I turn this on, this will open just like this. The only thing we're missing is a solid block on top of here, or it'll close just like this, as well as a water source on that piston specifically. And now whenever you'll notice that whenever that receives power, it'll switch from dropping the mobs straight into oblivion and actually sending them inside of the machine and then having them sort out and everything and lovely stuff and all that. So you can go ahead and remove this with a torch just like that, or dust, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other end. So again, 3 blocks, up 1 diagonally, forward 1, and go like this. On this one over here, we're gonna add in a sticky piston, block in front of that one, torches on either end. On top of this one, you're gonna have a solid block with a piston like so. Then on top of, wait, is that correct? I believe it is. On top of this one over here, we're gonna have a sticky piston facing forward. That's gonna push all these blocks, but you can just get rid of that one. We could then add in leaves here and here. Before we do move on, however, let's add in a redstone torch here, a block right here, and then a repeater facing forward. You can test this just by adding a torch like that. You'll notice that if you were to build up the funnel for the mobs, they'll either fall inside of here, which by the way, all we're missing is just a to water source that piston right there. And again, they'll either fall in here and get sent into sorting, or they'll fall straight down just like that. Now this one, you do want to build the funnel going all the way down, just because there is a chance for the mobs to carry momentum and end up landing on top of our redstone here, which we want to avoid. So I would just build this going all the way down like this, and once it's free of any extra redstone, you won't have to worry about any of the mobs landing anywhere we don't want them. So that should take care of all of that redstone, actually, believe it or not. And the only thing we're missing now is just the redstone that powers the storage silo for the witches. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our way up here. We're gonna grab ourselves a tripwire hook or two tripwire hooks. Tripwire here, tripwire there, a string in the center to connect them. Now you'll notice I won't be able to actually trigger this, but a witch will, since they stand up inside the minecarts, so you don't have to worry about that not working with yourself. We're going to start off by going over to this end. We're going to add in a block in front of it like so. We're going to go down diagonally like this, avoiding that redstone. And one thing you'll notice is that we are actually missing two pistons. So I apologize for this. I didn't add this into the materials list. I must have forgotten or something. But what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to add in some pistons in order to help aid with the witch actually. So basically sometimes there's a chance that the witch will miss the minecart on its way down. So in order to help with this, we're going to add in some pistons on either end here in order to help avoid that happening as much as possible. So we're going to add in two pistons like this, and the same over on this side. We're going to start off by going down like this. Here we're going to add in a solid block, and then we're going to lead two dust of redstone like so. And then in front of this guy, we're going to place a torch like that. And you'll notice that it won't be until a witch lands inside of this minecart that piston will then de-extend, and we can then have all the other witches despawn. And the same scenario over here. All we have to do is replace this block here with a solid block like so. And finally, we can lead this down like that. We have to lead this over one more diagonally just to help avoid that redstone there. But from here, all we have to do is just take this all the way down until we connect it up with this lamp. So we're going to start off going up diagonally here, diagonally, or actually out by two, then diagonally up again. And finally, we're going to go up, I believe, one more like this. We're going to avoid this chute by going around it like so. We're going to have a repeater here just to make sure that the signal makes it all the way down to the lamp. And finally, all we have to do is just connect it up to this guy, just like so. And just like that, all of the redstone is complete for your mob head farm, fully AFKable mob head farm. The only thing that you're missing is adding in leaves on top of all of these areas. As I had mentioned before, we are about to add in a roof on top of all of this. So don't worry about adding leaves on top of these guys. Only worry about adding leaves on top of all of the redstone down below. So these blocks right here, everywhere that there's exposed redstone or an exposed block, make sure you add in a leaf just to keep the Enderman from teleporting around and ruining our rates. Before I do go ahead and start lying to you guys, I forgot that you'll notice here there's a lot of open space whenever these are open. So you want to just come back and ensure that anywhere there's an open space, the witch won't be able to get out. So just add in blocks all along here. Make your way underneath as well and do the same thing. Just add in blocks going all the way down. Anywhere you can, add in blocks. Just like this, and make it go down to the same height as the chute right next to it. Just like that. And lastly, I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Anywhere you can. That'll take care of all of that. The only place you want to be careful with is just in front of the witch itself. Since we wanted to be able to hit the snow golem, we do want to avoid adding too many blocks. So I would just add in one block like this, or as is. It won't ever, you won't ever actually be running into the issue of it being able to land anywhere you don't want it or whatever and stuff and things and like that and all that good stuff. So I think if you really want to, or actually what I mean is that the witch itself will push the other witches off, so you don't have to worry about it. But that should actually be, I don't know what I'm trying to say, sorry. So that takes care of that. The hitbox of the witch will take care of everything else. So that's actually the entirety of the farm complete, with the exception of the spawning platforms, of course. And we need to prime it by adding in some 16 trash items this, inside of this Eptho hopper clock, just like that. So now we can actually give it a quick little test. If we were to turn it on, you'll notice that periodically this guy will flip up and down. Perfect. And I actually honestly forgot to add in a channeling trident into the material list as well. But if it was raining, you could test the stuff and things and all that. And you can also test the override switch. If you flip this switch, you'll notice that the bob sorting is turned on manually for us to actually be able to go ahead and add a witch inside of the chamber and prime the machine whenever there isn't a storm running. Next, this first bottom floor that you're going to end up adding in is going to help ensure that none of the light seeps in from the bottom into the top floors, keeping mobs from spawning. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and connect up these like so. And then over here at the front, what you're going to do is you're going to bring it, in the back, you're going to bring it all the way to the back to here till it's in between the fence gates and the water that kills the momentum for our bottles, just like that. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and fill in this entire square. Once you have done that, you can go ahead and use that as a reference for where your ice is actually going to go ahead and go. So I'm pretty sure this should take care of it. Now, if you're going to be building a creeper only floor, you can go ahead and expand this ice out by an extra bit, just like that. But if you're going to be building mob only floors, this is going to be all the ice that you're going to need. It's just up to where we're going to end up funneling them down. What I do is I just add in tinted glass like this because it doesn't really matter. And this is actually where the walls are going to end up going to keep the baby zombies from running up onto the the path blocks above. But from here, you can then go ahead and take your actual path blocks or your dirt that you will then turn into path blocks. And all along here, I believe, is where we're going to end up taking the path blocks. So I lied, you're actually going to take an extra path block out like this and like this. And these are going to go out by a whole 3 blocks. But before you go ahead and move on from here, we're actually going to want to obviously add in ice, or not ice, solid blocks and or tinted glass going all the way back like so, to make sure that none of the light seeps through. Just like that. Right here on this edge, I would add in some leaves so that the Enderman can't teleport down there as well. And finally, this is where our wall is actually going to end up going in. Down here, you can bring this up by 1. And on the side here, what's going to happen is this is where we're going to end up placing all of our slabs. Going like this. Slabs there. And then again, you can add in walls like this real quick. And then this doesn't go out that far, it only goes out to there. Slabs all along here, just like that. You can bring up this, and then this is where the wall is gonna go. This is where I'm gonna have to apologize to you guys again, because I actually built this one block too narrow. You're gonna have to bring this out by an extra block on every side. For the trap doors, what you're gonna do, so you're gonna make your way over here. This is where the first one's gonna go. So you're gonna start off from this corner. You're gonna go over 1, up 2, and then on that third one is where that's gonna go. And then these are gonna create a 5x5 grid with every third block being a trap door. So you have 2 in between every trap door, just like this. And that'll keep all these spiders from being able to spawn inside of the platform. Finally, the only thing we're missing is if I were to spawn us in a zombie, aside from the fact that he's going to want to burn, you guys will notice that, well, there are a couple things missing, but for the sake of demonstration, he'll try to pathfind over here, assuming, so right now he pathfinded to the other side. Boy, it did kind of work actually. It seems as well as though I have the override switch still on, so let me turn that off. But again, currently as the farm is, the zombies will generally walk over there, try to pathfind onto the solid path blocks, but he'll end up just kind of hanging around it, and he won't really make its way onto it wherever we want it. So what we're gonna end up having to do, you guys can see they just stop short. So what we have to do is we have to give them a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of motivation. Wrong time. By adding in a couple water streams here. So you're gonna take some buttons as well as some more water buckets. You're gonna add in buttons like so, I believe. And then the water will end up making this type of formation. We don't want it flowing onto the actual block itself, so we're going to place a open fence gate like so. And we also don't want drown spawning, so we're going to place some buttons on top of there just like that to keep everything uh, the way we want it. And finally, you're going to do the same thing to the other side. So you're going to place buttons along here like this, and then waterlog these in the center just like that. And finally, coral fan just like so. And that'll complete the entire spawning platform for the general mobs. The only thing that we are missing are some trapdoors. So go ahead and get rid of some stuff real quick. We're going to need some trapdoors on each one of these blocks, just like this. And over here on the side, the baby zombies can still walk on top of these and fit there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add leaves on top of all of these to make sure that they don't end up doing that and ruining a whole bunch of the farm for us. So again, trapdoors along all of these. And then some leaves right here. Just like that. So next, what we can do is this can actually help for adding in the next floor. If you're making this out of another general mob farm floor, you can just copy it, copy and paste the exact same thing. But if you're making this a creeper only floor, what you can do is you can make this the only real difference is that you can add in a couple extra spawning spots. Since they don't need the extra motivation from the water, we can also get rid of some of the buttons on the floor there as well. So we can do this, and then you can fill in this entire floor so that it looks just like this. Before we can actually move on, however, there is one little detail that you need to add to the bottom floors, and it's some trapdoors here and here. And on the top as well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to add in trapdoors like this, and then one just like that. And then this is actually where, oh. And I also forgot that in order to make sure that the baby zombies basically don't ever end up landing up here, or as much as possible, we're going to replace this ice block right here with a trapdoor like that. And do the same thing. Do some trapdoors like this. And we're also just missing now two trapdoors right here and right here. So now what you can do for the creeper only floor, very similar. The path blocks are going to go up here, just like this. And another exception is that you don't have to worry about adding leaves on top of these blocks right here, on top of these slabs. Since there are no baby zombies, we can just go ahead and add slabs themselves. Going all the way back down like this. And same on this side, add in some path blocks. We're only missing two right there. And then from here, we can add in the trapdoors. since the creepers don't need the extra push of water, all we're missing is just some coral fan on these trapdoors like this. Now, the biggest difference with this creeper floor is that once you add in the roof, so let me go ahead and do that real quick. After you add in the roof, we're gonna have to limit the spawning of the other mobs by adding buttons all along the top side. So you're gonna have to go down here. And if you had seen Silent Whispers video, this is actually pretty simple. All you have to do is just look right here at the edge of the block and run forward and place the buttons as you go. What I would do is what I would recommend is after you do a line, you look down and make sure you didn't miss any before you go ahead and do the next set of buttons. And then you have to do that all the way through. But once you do that, that'll actually complete your creeper only floor, which I'm not going to finish here because the only thing missing from here is just build up as many floors as you want. If you want the rates I got, I would recommend just building up 6 floors with one of them being creeper only. And then from there, you just have to build up the walls going all the way around. And finally, actually, the one thing that I did forget is that we need the platforms on the sides for the Enderman. The way those work is every 3 platforms, we added one of those spawning or teleporting platforms for the Enderman. So we go for the middle one. And then, so for example, if we were to add in the next floor for spawning, that would be our 3rd floor right there for the ice. So this middle one is the every 2 floors, whatever, I don't know. The middle one, you will make your way out like so. I believe you go out 4 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we place in 2 blocks like this, matching the length of the spawning platform. Just like that. On the edge, we're going to place some coral fan. And finally, what you have to do is you have to go out with leaves like this, making sure there's a gap for the Enderman to actually fall through. And we're going to build wall. This will help cancel the momentum so that they won't be falling onto the platforms below or whatever the case might be, and help ensure that they basically fall straight on through. And if it's the topmost platform, what you have to do is you need to add a roof on top of it, because if it's raining, the Endermen are not going to want to teleport onto it. So you just make sure that there's a 3 block gap, and then you add in the roof everywhere on top of these solid blocks. And I believe they also kind of register I think they can only teleport onto the solid blocks maybe. So, but just to be safe, I would finish this off by doing this like so. And you would want to do that on every side of the farm. And after you go ahead and build all that stuff over here, this is what it should end up looking like in the end. It looks a little bit wonky. We have a little bit of an extra gap up there because you need to make sure that there's a 2 block gap here on top of the Huzamowatsits. I'm not too sure if that's what you have to do. Maybe not. Maybe I don't think you need to do that actually. But I would recommend it just to make sure that the pathfinding, and that's actually how I did it anyways. So you want to go ahead and do that. Really quickly, guys, before I end this, there are 3 more things that I need to share with you before you can go ahead and work this. I wanted to be a little bit more specific with the top. I realized I was being kind of lazy after editing some of it. So right here at the top, when I first showed it to you, I went ahead and just blocked this off. You actually do want to make sure you leave a 2 block gap on top of this path block, and the same goes for everything inside of here. The second thing is that before you can use the farm and AFK it, you need to add a witch into the platform or into the minecart over here. So the way you actually go about doing this is first you flick this lever over here. This is the override switch for the mob sorting. And then you go over to your AFK spot. This is also a good time to talk about the AFK spot. Basically, you find the center of the farm. It doesn't have to be exactly the center. I'm going off of the 4th platform here. And you count out 20 blocks. But more specifically, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look for the chunk borders. So this is a little bit unfortunate. I probably could have done this by counting or something, but it's a little bit late and I'm super tired and I want to get this out for everybody to see. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find the chunk border, and the AFK spot will be right on the corner of the chunk. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add some glass panes like this so you can AFK in the center of 4 chunks just like so. And basically what this does is it increases the rates of the spawning. I don't exactly know, but that's something I would recommend. You don't have to do that specifically, but that would be probably the best way to go about it. Otherwise, you would want to just AFK at least 20 blocks away from the farm to make sure that the actual spawning is maximized as much as possible. But again, eventually what you do is you turn on that switch, you fly over to your AFK spot, wherever this thing went. I lost it. I don't know what I did with it. But you go over to your AFK spot, you sit here and you wait for a witch to spawn. Once a witch spawns in, it'll make its way down here, it'll fall and it'll get sorted, pushed over, and then it should end up landing inside of that minecart. So I guess I can display this by spawning one in manually. If we were to just spawn one in, you will notice that eventually it'll pathfind and make its way over to the actual platforms. The witches are the iffiest mobs when it comes to this farm. They pathfind once and they sit right next to the water, and then the second time they pathfind, they'll most likely end up falling down. I don't know why it's like that, but it just is. However, like I said, yeah, by the second time they should end up landing inside the water, and they might fight it, but eventually they should make their way down. This was giving me the toughest time in the world. I don't understand why it has to ruin my tutorial and prolong my existence on this freaking thing. I just want to move on. Yeah, so I had to push it down, but eventually the witches will make it their way down, and that's how I do it in survival. When a witch spawns naturally, it has a better time making its way down. It'll land down there, and like I said, right there, that one would have missed the minecart completely, so that's why we added in these pistons to kind of try and ensure that it ends up landing uh, right there, and after a while, it'll pathfind onto the minecart itself. So let's just give it a bit of time in order to do that. Make sure I fix my farm real quick in case I want to come back and test something or whatever. So you guys will see it sits inside the minecart. These retract. What you then have to do, right? Once you get a witch in there, you'll know because the redstone lamp will turn on. So what you got to do is you got to make your way over here and name it. The easiest way to go about this would be to do it from the top over here. You can also, when I showed you guys, the way I showed you guys is I added this roof of using solid blocks, and then I added leaves on top of it. You can go ahead and, you know, make it flush like this if you want. So you can make your way over here. You can actually remove this block, and I believe also this block right here. And this should give you access to name the witch. So if I were to crouch here, or actually this is a little bit, that's incorrect. I lied. You want to make your way up. I think I can remove these blocks, not that one, but I can remove these blocks, and then you can remove this one just like this, and this would basically give you access to the witch. If you're finding you're having a little bit of trouble still hitting it, worst case scenario, what you can do is you can add in some trap doors on either side, and then crouch here, inch your way out, and then you can name it from there. But once you name the witch, what you want to do, you want to once again fly away from the farm so that you can despawn any of the mobs that might be present and the snow golem might be linking onto. Make your way back, open this fence gate. If if it's not being weird, it will attack the witch, and you'll have a much better time doing this in survival. Sometimes this will happen though, so if this does happen, I think worst case what you do is you just kill the snow golem and then spawn another one in, and this new one should without a doubt target the witch. Now again, in survival you're gonna have a lot better time of this. But once you see the witch throw a potion, you can go ahead and close the fence gate back up, and the farm is officially ready for you to AFK. All you have to do is press the button, make sure you turn off the override, and you just sit at the AFK spot and watch the machine work its magic. And just like that, your farm will be complete. I'm gonna go edit this video. I'm not looking forward to it, but if you guys enjoyed, please remember leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on bell notifications. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section down below. Again, I apologize for missing some of the materials in the materials list, but aside from that, I should have covered everything. I'm pretty confident that I did. In case I never see your beautiful faces again, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your lives. Until next time, it was Zombie.